Hello, this is John Ramsey, and this is My Big Comeback. I have a wonderful guest today, Gina Littleton. She's the CEO of United Way. And Gina, glad to have you today. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there at the United Way.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, first and foremost. I'm grateful to be here. So, United Way of Northwest Florida, we cover 6 counties, Bay, Calhoun, Jackson, Holmes, and Washington. Did I name 6 just then? Those, that area basically. I know, right? We're almost everything between Tallahassee and Pensacola. There's a few things between here and there, but for that most part, we're circa 14.
Big area.
It is a very big area. 5 of our counties are rural, obviously, and then Bay County is the biggest. But we really work, our big focus, which I know we're going to talk about, is the Alice population. So all of our programs are based around that. And then one of the best things that we do, in my opinion, is partner with 49 of the best organizations across our 6 counties. So we work collaboratively to solve the toughest challenges in our area.
So how do you, like 49 organizations, do they pick you or you pick them, or how does that work?
Yes and yes. They pick us because there's an affiliated application process they have to go through, and then we vet them through that process. So we require their financials, their board members. We want to know really 2 main things. Are they fiscally responsible, and are they doing the programs that they say they're going to do? So they provide all that information and data.
Good.
It's very good.
Making sure everybody's reputable
100%.
and doing what they're saying they're doing. That's important.
If you are a United Way affiliated agency, the community can rest assured that that organization has been vetted. We know they're doing things right. We know they're financially responsible, and we know their programs are impactful.
That's fantastic. So like when programs, give me just a few of them we're talking about.
For that we do, or that our partners do?
Or that you're partners with.
So the Boys and Girls Club, the Gulf Coast Children's Advocacy Center, Anchorage Children's Home, Family Service Agency, Art of Manhood up in Washington County, Innovative Charities. Yep. Some really, I always say, if you've heard of an organization around town, we're probably affiliated with them.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So how did you get into that?
Into nonprofit?
Yeah.
So kind of by accident. I'm not sure if anybody goes to college looking for a nonprofit degree. I don't even know if that exists.
Yeah.
I went to school for journalism back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right before newspapers fell off the face of the planet. So not a real good long-term plan. But then when I graduated school, I moved to Chicago for a little while, and I worked for a headhunting firm. We placed like high-level executives in marketing companies and law firms, which had nothing to do with my degree. Then I moved back to Panama City, and I started working for the Florida Center for Reading Research at FSU, which is not technically a nonprofit, but it really runs a lot like one. And that was my entry into the career.
So did you go to school at FSU?
I went to Florida. I'm a Gator.
Ah, you're a Gator.
Yeah, but I worked at FSU, so.
Yeah, so you like them both.
That's right.
So how'd you like Chicago?
I loved it. Yeah. It is very much like New York.
Did you live right in the city?
I did live in the city in a neighborhood called Boys Town.
Yeah.
It is very much like New York in that big city. There's a lot going on, but where New York, you always hear that, everybody keeps to themselves and they don't chat. Chicago is very Midwest.
Yeah.
So you get on the train and the person next to you says, "Good morning, how are you?" Like, it felt very Southern to me.
Yeah.
But still had that big city feel. So I loved it. The winters are horrible, which is the main reason I'm back in Florida.
The 2 people I know from Chicago is like, be prepared to be colder than you've ever been in your life.
It's to the bone. They call it the Windy City, not because of the way that it's actually windy, but it is actually windy. I remember one winter, they actually put ropes around the building because the wind gets so bad through those tunnels that you would have to, I know, it was crazy.
To hold on to pull yourself into work.
Or it was there in case you needed to do that, but the snow is falling and it's brutal.
I've heard that. Now, the people I know from Chicago say the winters are just make you want to move to Florida.
They make you want to come back to Florida.
So is that what brought you back to Florida, the weather? Or
I mean, I would say that was a big contributing factor. My family's here. My mom and dad are here. And so it was time. Plus, I went to school for journalism. I ended up with an English degree, but that was my motivation, and I wasn't doing anything in that field. And so then coming back here, you make decisions and you never know if they're the right ones, right? Sometimes it takes 5 or 10 years to find that out. But I'm glad that I did. I'm super happy to be back.
So how long have you been back in Panama City?
think it was either 2005 or 2006.
So you were here for the storm and all that.
Oh yeah, literally
Hurricane.
here for
The
the
hurricane
storm.
that changed our community. Yeah.
In our house in the Cove during
Yeah.
that time. It was horrible.
Yeah, the Cove. The Cove has all them big trees.
Oh yes.
So it's a lot of power lines down all the time. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Cove friends, and that's just what you deal with the beautiful shade
Yep.
and the beautiful neighborhood. You deal with power lines down because of all of that. But, I know the hurricane changed everybody's
Yeah.
life, and it affected our life, our church, and everything. And I think that everyone has a taste of it, and I think that for a moment in time, all of Bay County was needy.
Yeah.
You need something. You needed something. If nothing else, just a hug from your neighbors, because it was a time.
It was some of the data that we pulled since then, and we work closely with the long-term recovery organization, Rebuild Bay County. United Way was paramount in setting that up after the hurricane. But she has a lot of data from the storm, obviously, and I think 65% of the structures in Panama
Yeah.
City were destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot.
I know with dealing with FEMA with the church, they said it was 84 churches destroyed. Something like, we have a large child care center, so it's 27 child care centers, 60% of homes and businesses.
Yeah, we're still not
everywhere.
recovered from
We're
that.
not recovered. And I don't know how long it'll be.
Yeah.
I mean, when storm first happened, the first thing I said, well, it'll take 5 years. Well, here we are, 7 years. We're not rebuilt yet. We're
Yep.
rebuilding,
Yep.
but a long way from being done. And then I know a lot of other churches and businesses and places that are still temporary locations. So it's a big effect on our
A
community and
huge
all.
effect. And there's been positives with that too. I mean, you see downtown. I don't know that, obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but I don't know that downtown would look like it does today had we not had the storm. So clearly there are some things. I don't ever want to say I'm grateful for Hurricane Michael. I'm not. I never will be. But we did have some good things to come out of
Yeah.
it. But to your point about child care centers, that's a problem we are still facing. The dominoes from that, losing 27
Yeah.
child care centers, is still an issue today.
It is an issue, and it's the biggest issue facing the American workforce.
Yeah.
Not, especially Bay County because of what we've been through with disaster, but the whole country. And I keep waiting on people to address it. When you look at the presidential race and different stuff, the question came up in the big debate. Neither one answered it.
Yeah.
They both just blew by it.
Yep.
And it's a breakdown moment for society.
Yep.
And I really feel like, we have one of the largest child care centers in the community. Our big breakdown is teachers, getting enough teachers. When we finish the new church, we'll open 5 new rooms. We're licensed right now for 165, but we'll be expanding on that. But, I say we'll be expanding. We have to have teachers.
Yep.
And the problem is, and there was a good article that Susan Gage shared the other day, there's a real fine line between what parents can pay and us being able to keep open and pay our teachers a working wage.
100%.
Because they don't make a lot of money.
I know.
Our teachers don't make a lot of money. You couldn't live off it. If that was your only income in home, you couldn't live off of it.
That's what we call the Alice population.
That's the Alice population.
That's right.
And I know exactly who they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
because I work with them every day.
Yep.
And the thing is, well, you should pay your teachers this. Well, there's only one way I can do that, and that's to charge our parents more.
That's right.
And then everyone's, well, we can't afford to do this, because if you have 3 kids in childcare, you better have a really good job.
Or you're not going to work.
Or you're not going to work. And that's the breakdown.
Yep.
Because it's when you see the job population, employment, you see people that, well, we need more workers. Well, if you need more workers, you actually need more childcare.
Yep.
And I know the answer, but I'm not in that position. So
Well, just
I'm
like with
hoping-
anything else, someone has to pay. Every scenario we've ever talked about, someone has to pay, whether it's healthcare, childcare,
Absolutely.
transportation, whatever the thing is, the money has to come from somewhere. And so, yeah, to your point, what are you going to do? Are you going to charge working parents who are already struggling to pay for childcare more so that you can pay teachers more? Like, where does it come from? And then the problem persists.
Yeah, it is, and it's a complex problem. It
very much.
really is. But I'm hoping, that people like you will, keep helping with where you do and help people, work through it, because there's got to be a solution.
Yeah.
The workforce is the workforce. The wheels don't turn unless people are working, and people are not going to work if there's not a safe place to put their child.
It's very true. I hear all the time about families. We get calls from people on the worst day. And there's a lot of times where it's a 2-parent household, but one of the parents has chosen not to work because of a childcare issue, because their salary would have gone completely to childcare. And at what point are you just like, that's ridiculous? But then one salary is not enough to support the family. And so again, those dominoes continue to fall because you're having to make those decisions. What do we do? And then we want people to have kids, right? We don't want you to stop having kids, but we also need you to work. So, so I do. And Susan Gage, who you brought up earlier, they're doing a phenomenal job of they are fantastic. They work in all those same 6 counties, more than us, actually. I think she covers 10 counties. But they're working really hard in those areas to try and make sure that families can go to work and doing a great job. But there's always more. There's always more need. And even those people, once we feel like we've solved the problem, then we go back to those families that were 2-parent households and one has decided to stay home and they want to enter it's forever snowballing.
Yes.
But there are very smart people working on it, and it is an issue everybody knows is an issue, and it affects all of us. That's another thing I always try to get across to people if I'm fundraising or trying to get people to volunteer or engage with us in some way. Whether or not you think this is your problem, it is. Even you hear, I don't have kids, I don't need to support, but do you have a job? Do you go to the grocery store? Do you do X, Y, Z? Do you go have fun? Do you go to the movies? Like that requires all of us to be a part of the system that we've decided is how it works. And so even if you don't have kids, even if you don't do whatever the thing is, it affects you in some way. And you'll pay for it in some way. Whether that's because this child didn't get early interventions and now they're in prison, you're going to pay for that. Or because they're not working and you go to Publix and there's not enough people to help you and you're in line for 30 minutes. Like somewhere you're going to pay. So it's good for us to.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's never just give me what I need and I'll be fine. No. Everybody's involved in it. Everybody has to, the teacher that takes care of your child at childcare has to eat. They have to buy groceries. 100%. They have to have electricity.
Yep.
It's part of all of us.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy answer. And it really isn't.
And it takes all of us to answer.
It takes all of us, and I think that there's some good ideas out there, but it's a matter of getting the right money in the right place and the right people thinking about that. And somewhere along the way, there's got to be, even at a national level, there's got to be an address towards child care. Yeah. Giving people relief, whether it's a relief on their taxes, whether it's, and they've done a little bit of it, but I'm not sure how some of that's going to filter down or where it will filter down.
Or if it will be good or bad.
Or if it'll be good or bad. Yeah. It's a complex issue.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Tell me about some of the people in your life that have inspired you. I know your parents and people are community minded and all, but I mean, who is it? Who's your big inspiration?
I hate to say my parents because that sounds so trite, but it really is my parents. First and foremost, my mom and dad. My dad was a city commissioner in Panama City. So even from a young age, like I had to answer the phone, Littleton residents, this is Gina speaking, at 7 years old.
The 7-year-old secretary.
That's right. And even just through that, like, why can't my friends just say hello? Why can't I do that? And my dad saying, because this is a household where anybody could call us if they have a problem and you need to be polite and they need to know who you are when you answer. So those kind of things I didn't realize were lessons, but they were. My mom was a public school teacher for 42 years and then on the school board. And we had students at our house for dinner all the time. She would be making food and bringing it to school for someone. We would be leaving at 8:00 to go pick someone up from football practice because they didn't have a ride home. Like that was just who she was.
What a role model.
I know.
What a role model.
And again, you don't realize it. She never sat me down and said, I'm going to teach you this. It was just who they were. Yeah. And so we grew up recognizing that a successful community requires the community.
To care.
That's right. And you have to be a part of it. And so if a student can't get home from football practice, that you go get them. Like that's what you do. You make sure that they can get home because otherwise they can't play football. And we need them in sports and team learning and all of that stuff. If they're not doing well in school, is it because they're hungry? Is it because it's your responsibility? And we were not wealthy people. I mean, my mom was a teacher. Like we were just a normal middle class family. But it was important to her and to my dad to be helpful people. They're like Mr. Rogers people. Yeah. And so we absorbed all of that through osmosis as kids. And then as we grew up, it just became, that was just a part of our lives. So I've always been a person who, gave $1 at the gas station if I saw somebody. I know that sounds silly, but I just was always that person. I didn't, you hear like, you can't give them $1, they could spit, whatever. I didn't care about any of that. Like if you want food, I'm going to get you food, whatever. And so it's just been important. And as I've gotten older and understood sort of my role in all of that, I genuinely believe that it is all of our responsibility to have a successful community. I
I
cannot
love it.
complain
I love it.
about whatever issues there are unless I am willing to take a step to fix them.
You got to be a giver.
100%.
I'll tell you what I saw when I was pulling up to Lisenby Avenue and 23rd Street. So there used to be a little gas station right there. I don't
Yep.
know, maybe there still is. So I'm stopped at the red light, taking my child to Bay High School. This was maybe last winter. And I look over, I'm at the red light, I look over, it's freezing cold. It's one of those few days in Panama City where it's freezing. There we get a few every year. Bitter cold, windy, and there's this person with a T-shirt standing outside right outside the door of the gas station. I don't know if they're waiting for food or whatever. This person is pumping gas in their truck and gets done pumping gas and stops and walks into the station, goes in, I guess, pays for their gas or whatever, comes back out, takes off their coat and hands it to the person. And you can see the person shaking their head and they're giving it to them and hands it to the person, gets in their truck and drives away. My light turns green. And I had put on my Facebook, I said, I saw you do that.
Yep.
Because it was so beautiful. And of course she didn't know I was watching,
No, and it wasn't for that.
It wasn't for that. And I wish I could have filmed it. I mean, I've read a lot, I couldn't. But the thing is, just a random act of kindness, saw a cold person and gave them a coat. And was beautiful, and I loved it.
Imagine if we all did that.
Yeah,
and
just
whatever
care about
metaphor that
people.
is in your life, like maybe it's obviously not a physical coat, but for whatever that is for you, if we all did that, like
I try to teach my people that everyone is designed to give, and it doesn't matter if you can't pay for someone's college, you can buy someone a book. You can't buy someone a car, you can buy them a tank of gas or a tire.
Yep.
It's impossible for you to say I'm unable to help.
Yep.
You can help somebody.
Yep.
I'm going to talk to you some more about it. I'm going to take a break just a minute. We'll be right back with Gina Littleton.
Heroes Child is a nonprofit organization that is on a mission to help community heroes with the everyday cost of childcare. We know that heroes like our military personnel, first responders, and foster families need care for their children. Heroes Child awards these families scholarships that go to help pay their childcare tuition. Use the QR code on the screen to donate now or visit heroeschild.org today.
All right, I'm back. This is John Ramsey with My Big Comeback. I've got my special guest, Gina Littleton, and we're sharing some things about what you do and all. But tell me, what kind of challenges to your personal life or career? What's the biggest obstacle or challenge you faced?
Currently childcare is a big issue for me. I have 2 kids and a really demanding job. And so, I was making a joke the other day. Someone asked me how my summer was, and I was like, summer?
Yeah.
This is horrible. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my children for 8 hours a day. So that's pretty challenging on the day-to-day. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just generally speaking, the challenges that our community faces affect me personally. It's hard for me not to take work home. And so when I see things that are happening across our area that I feel like we should be able to come up with a solution to, and we're not doing that, it's very frustrating. I'm kind of a justice warrior in that sense. I find that really difficult. So I think in that case, it's tough for me to not be able to come up with an answer sometimes. I have a hard time not being able to say, we just need to do blah.
Yeah.
And not because I know what the answer is, but just because I find that incredibly frustrating. So I wish I were better at not taking that home.
And social
sometimes.
problems are always complex problems because it affects one way or the other affects people.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as, well, just do this, well, that affects a lot of people.
Yeah, it does.
So it's always more to
And there's
it.
more than one answer. I was
There's
thinking
more than
about what
one
we were
answer.
talking about earlier. There's never just one solution. What's good for the Smith family isn't going to work for the Jones family or whatever that thing is. And so it is complex.
It is complex. So tell me about your travels. Have you been very many places besides? You told me Chicago. Have you been out of the country?
I have. I've been to Mexico a couple times, especially in college.
Yeah.
That was a fun place to go.
Yeah. People do tend to go to
They
Mexico.
do. They
in
do. That's
college,
the answer. I don't know if it's the 18-year-old drinking age. No, I'm kidding. But when I was in the 5th grade, we went to England. It was actually for school. I know it was weird, but that's the only time I have been to Great Britain. But it was an incredible trip, and it really shaped me, I think, realizing how different but connected we all
Yeah,
are. Like
yeah.
when we did a pen pal situation, so we went and stayed with another family while we were there, and we'd been writing, the girl and I had been writing with each other. And I know this sounds so silly, but recognizing that this is just another family making breakfast in the morning
Yeah,
and sending
yeah.
their child to school and going to work
Same
and coming
issues we
home,
have,
100%.
same excitement. Yeah.
Totally. And I don't know why, but I guess maybe it was my age at the time too, but it was just an awakening for me. And I think probably the more I think about it, what led me into the career that I'm in, that recognition of how different but the same we all are.
Yeah.
No one deserves anything more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And everyone deserves a shot at opportunity. So again, not to get too deep, but I think that really did it for me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is America's such a young country and England is such an old country.
Yeah.
And so we would be driving in our big bus and seeing those fences, the stone fences that were built like 1,000 years ago.
Isn't that
Oh, I
amazing?
just loved
amazing.
it. Oh, I
It's
loved it.
amazing.
And that I wouldn't call myself a history buff, but I go down these deep rabbit holes of like Egyptian culture and the 1,500 kings and queens. And I just love all that stuff.
I
So
love
it was-
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was amazing.
We had a pastor this last week from Uganda. And, and just to put it in perspective with our church, I said, look, we're raising money. We're doing this. We're building a big, beautiful new building. And I said, he's raising money to get electricity. They were going to raise $40,000 to run their own electric line because the government didn't run it for them. They had to completely pay for it, so the power poles, everything, themselves to have 700 kids. And I said, what do you do now? He says, well, we have torches, we have, candles,
Yeah.
we have fire at night for just the walkways. But he said, it's just dark. It's just dark. And, when we think of school, we think of going to school, from 7:30 to 3 in the afternoon,
Yeah.
whatever. They go to school and live there and go home. They go home 3 times a year, but they live at the school because it's too expensive to go back and forth to the house.
Well, and you're so far away, I bet.
It's a different life.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it is interesting to hear different cultures and different lives because we're not all the same,
No, totally.
So what would be on your bucket list if things that you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
That is easy to answer. I want to go to Egypt. I would love to spend a couple of weeks there because, like I said, I really do go on these deep dives. And Greece is another one. I would just love to go to Greece.
Yeah,
Yep, and
that's
spend
great.
some time seeing the places that I've seen on pictures.
So you're a big
and,
history person,
I
huh?
am, yeah.
Yeah. What do you read? Do you read a lot of history stuff?
I don't like. I don't. I mean, on the internet, I do. Like, I
Yeah.
Google a lot of stuff, and I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of that. My reading is more. I'm a Kindle Unlimited fan, so I do
Yeah.
a lot of Kindle Unlimited authors. And then
So what's your genre? What do you like?
like fantasy. Like, I don't really want to answer that question.
Dragon Slayer
I
stuff.
do.
Game of Thrones kind of.
I'm gonna defend myself only in that my job
That's
is
funny.
very
It's good.
demanding.
It's good. It's kind
So,
of it's escape.
it is an
It's
escape.
the least like your job.
100%,
So you can
yes.
check out and put your mind somewhere else.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
I'm a big World War II historical fiction. So I'm a big history person, but I like that particular area of World War II and all. It's just interesting to me. I don't really like fantasy. It
Yeah.
just doesn't hold my interest,
Yep.
But I like history, so I like the historical stories and all that. But
Yeah.
everybody has their own.
I
Their
know,
own
I
thing
know.
That they like.
My mom is always like, if you can finish a book in a day, that's not the book you should be reading. I'm like, that's exactly the book I want to read. Like, just let me go for a couple of hours into a completely different world and lose myself and then come back out.
That's the joy of reading, is being able to take yourself somewhere else
Yeah.
and disconnect from reality and do it. It's just amazing. I like all that stuff. I always have a few of my books out here, but John Steinbeck's my favorite author.
Yep.
But again, history. I like history, and I just like different stuff. I'm not much into the popular thing with podcasts right now is crime podcasts and
yeah.
all. And I mean, too much darkness. I mean, even if it, especially the true crime, I mean, people eat it up. They love it. It's interesting, but it's just too dark.
No,
I don't want
I'm
to get all
with
that in
you.
my head.
Nope.
I want to sleep at night.
Yep.
I don't want to, to me, it's installing fear in your life. And I don't want to install fear in my life.
I could not agree more. And again, and you probably get this a lot too. I'm sure people call you when they're having a tough time. I get enough of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't need to, which I've watched, the ID channel. I have seen some of that stuff. But if I am choosing something on Netflix or picking a book or whatever, or a podcast, that isn't going to be what I choose. I get enough of it in daily life.
Yeah.
I will say, just to redeem myself a little bit, my favorite author is Carl Hiaasen. So I've read every Carl Hiaasen that has ever existed more than once. And he cracks me up. I love his books. So I do read more than fantasy.
Yeah, that's good. I find that with people, when they talk about disconnected and all, it's healthy. It's healthy. It's healthy to dream. It's healthy to aspire to things. When I ask people about stuff on their bucket list, like going to Egypt is a great thing. If you don't have something that you aspire to do, then your life begins to shut down. You begin to go into that survival mode of, I'm just trying to get through today.
Yeah.
We got to dream a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's a healthy part of, sometimes I'll go on Zillow, I'll look at houses. I wonder what this house would cost in New York or California. And, my wife will ask me, are we moving to California and you haven't told me? I said, no. I said, I wondered what $500,000 would buy you in California. Nothing.
Yeah.
It'll
A
buy
tent.
you nothing. Yeah, it'll buy you a tent.
Yeah.
And same way in New York, I said, some of these apartments on Fifth Avenue, they're only $1 million or whatever. And then I look down at the HOA fee or whatever is $7,000 a month. I said, oh wow. So it's a different
closet.
Yeah, it's a closet, but it's fun to just look at those different places and where people are living, what they're doing. I think that travel's healthy. I think reading's healthy. I think all of those things, but it all comes back to what can I do here and how can I help people.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times Alice. So let's tell the people watching the podcast what that stands for, an acronym.
Yes.
So what does it stand for?
So ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. I always joke that there's going to be a quiz at the end, so you better memorize that. But what we are talking about are those folks who are working sometimes 2, 3, and 4 jobs, and they're still struggling to make ends meet.
See, and they don't like the term, and I don't like it either. But I'm trying to just so people understand what we're talking about. They used to label it, it's called the working poor.
Yes.
But they're not poor.
Nope.
But it's just a matter of people that are working are struggling.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and they're people like my dad. My dad passed away just a few months ago.
Oh, I'm so
my dad worked all his life. He was an enlisted man, worked 21 years in the Air Force, then another 20 years civil service with 5 kids. They struggled. He struggled all his life. Never wanted to do any kind of public assistance. And always had the mindset of that is for other people.
Right.
When the truth is, it was for him.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to use it, and he was what I would. He would have fit in. And Alice,
Yep.
he's that person they're not lazy. They're working all they can work. There's only so many hours
Could not
in a
have
day.
said it better.
They're working all the time, and they're just not making it.
That's right.
I see it every day with
Yep.
families in our school and families in our church. These aren't lazy people. These are not people that are sitting at the house doing nothing. They're working. Some of them work 2 jobs.
That's right.
And they're not making it with 2 jobs.
That's right.
What does it say when you have 2 jobs and you still can't pay your bills?
That's right.
We're in a tough spot.
We are in a tough spot. And to your point about public services, we have a federal poverty level. Those numbers haven't been changed. Those percentages haven't been changed since like the 20s. So it's not accurate, but we do have a federal poverty level. But then there's this gap of people between qualified as poverty and not making enough to afford the basic necessities of life. And a lot of times those folks fall off of cliffs for public assistance.
Yes.
So you make too much for
Yes.
help,
I
but
see it all
not
the time.
enough to do what you need to do. And I think, again, to your point about the working poor, we have this image in our mind of someone who, I gave a speech recently and someone said, well, McDonald's is not supposed to be your forever job. And I said, I'm not talking about the people who work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
We're talking about teachers, first responders, management. Like if you have a family of 4 and 2 of your kids need childcare, you need upwards of $80,000 a year to survive in Panama City, in Bay County.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
It's
When
a
you
lot.
think about that, that's a lot. You either got to have 2 people with $40,000+ a year jobs or one with 80 so the other can stay home with kids, whatever the thing is. It's a lot higher than you think it is.
Yes.
And it's not laziness. They did get their boots. They did pull their bootstraps on. And that's a whole other conversation because some people don't even have boots and we want them to pull their bootstraps up. But they've done all the things we said.
Yes.
They're college educated.
Yeah.
We begged them to come be a teacher. Now they're a teacher and they got a divorce and they've got 3 children and that's not enough to raise 3 kids. So I think changing that narrative to the community of, again, this does affect you. This is not about someone who's just lazy and won't do the things they're supposed to do. they are doing all the things they're supposed to do, but the world has become expensive, only more so in the last few years.
Buying a house.
It's
crazy.
crazy.
I mean, how are my kids going to buy a house? That's what parents are thinking about. Will they have to move to buy a house? Will
they live with you forever?
Will they have to live with me forever?
Yeah.
It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
When you think of apartments, a 1-bedroom apartment, $1,500.
At least.
Mm-hmm. And that's not enough for a family to live in. It's a tough situation right now.
It is. And it's only becoming harder. I'm glad that we're all taking a look at it now. And even throughout my career, I have seen that narrative shift. I remember back in COVID and post-COVID, there was a lot of that. Nobody wants to work. Well, nobody wants to work. But these days, at least around here in the conversations that I have with our leaders and businesses and nonprofit organizations, that narrative really has shifted. People are recognizing it's about childcare. It's about not being able to afford housing. It's about, this may be a great salary, but I have 3 kids. It's not enough for that, whatever those things are. And we're taking a hard look at how we can fix those things. My husband and I, if you look at what my house in the Cove, which was a very normal 1920s house built forever ago, we couldn't afford to buy that house today. Thank God we bought it in 2017.
Such a change.
Such a change. And I live in that house. It's not worth what it's raised to.
And those 3 things, housing, childcare, and food, groceries.
Yep.
Those 3, if they can't have those things, they can't stay.
Nope.
They can't stay in this community.
That's exactly right. And we want them here. We want
them
them to work here. We're bringing all these fabulous companies into our area, and they need a workforce. And we've got to start with them, Susan, starting with them young. We have a Reading Pals program to help develop early literacy. But if we can start now with these kids, that pipeline of then their 3rd grade reading scores are on level, they're graduating high school, they're going to Gulf Coast or FSU and getting a college degree, and then they're coming back and working for us. That's what we want.
Yes.
But if we don't intervene now, if we don't pay attention to the struggles that these families are having now, it's only going to get worse.
Well, and that's, one of the things we started at the church was, and it's not church, it's called Heroes Child. And we started it to help these people that are in this Alice bracket. Mm-hmm. And it's set up to help with foster families, first responders, and military people.
Love.
And it's not even a year old yet. We just started it. But one of the reasons I did it is because some of the roadblocks I was running into with grants and other things was they didn't want to give to churches.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you take the churches out of the loop, faith-based care, and faith-based helps feed a lot of people, take care of a lot of people, help a lot of people. If you remove the churches, you've removed a lot of your help.
Yes, you have.
Because they're helpers. But I found with the corporate world, a lot of them didn't want to give to a church because they don't want to endorse a specific religion. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're anti-church.
Right.
It's just if they help this church is mad about it.
Right.
So we started Heroes Child as a separate nonprofit organization just to help these people. And it's something it's building. It's a slow process building.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to build a name, a reputation. You've got to do.
You need funding. That's a lot.
We had a police officer that he'd become behind on his bill or whatever, and I was able to just tap him on the shoulder and say, "Look, we took care of that."
Yeah.
We took him. Well, how? I said, "Well, we're setting up a fund that businesses and stuff can give to help people that because some of these people, like first responders and teachers, they don't make enough to pay their bills, and they're doing all the right things, and we cannot function as a community without them.
Nope.
You can't have a community
Nope.
without law and order, without fire protection, without someone to teach your children. But these are the people that are not quite getting taken care of.
It's so true. I just was talking with Sheriff Ford the other day, and I had this thought. I was listening to a podcast. That when we are in our worst day, when the scariest thing ever is happening to us and we want to run away, we have people we can call that will come to us and help us. And those people deserve to be financially secure and to pay their light bill and to have food on the table for their kids. Yes. And it's our responsibility as a community to make sure that's true, whatever your job is. Until we can figure out the bigger problem there, which is a very tough one to solve, we can come together as a community. Some might say in a united way.
Yeah,
and
a united way.
In a united way,
good.
That's right. And collaborate and
that's
help
what you do.
solve. That's exactly
what the
we do.
United Way does.
That's exactly
is
right.
Connect people to the resources to help them.
That's right. Filling gaps in service where things are missing, being that hand up and not a handout when you're, can't pay the light bill. That's not a testament to who that person is.
No.
I mean, sometimes you have a child. That's right. You have a kid who's sick for a week and your paycheck is $200 less. That's a huge problem for someone who is living to the penny every month. I mean, that's your
Yes.
light bill.
Yes.
And so it's not someone who's saying, listen, I need you to pay my rent every month. It's just like, I got behind, this thing happened. It wasn't expected. We don't have savings because we're doing the best we can to survive as it is. And this thing happened, and now we've lost X. Now we are $500 short on our rent. Now we are.
And it happens to everybody.
It happens to everybody.
If you live long enough, you're going to go through something where you're going to need some help.
Absolutely.
Thank God for people like you all that are helping.
Thank you. Well, same to you. It's about the community. It's about stepping up and saying, if we don't solve these problems for ourselves, no one else is going to, and it's going to take all of us to do it.
Absolutely. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Hi, this is John Ramsey. I'm the host of My Big Comeback. Our podcast is all about inspirational people and interesting conversations. If you'd like to be a sponsor on our podcast, please contact us today.
Are you ready to connect your organization with an audience that is eager for inspiration? The My Big Comeback podcast, hosted by John R. Ramsey, shares powerful stories of resilience and redemption, featuring guests who have turned life setbacks into major comebacks. New episodes drop the 1st and 15th of every month. For those interested in being a part of this community, sponsorship opportunities are now available. To learn more, contact Meredith Cobb at meredithcobbhwc@gmail.com. Let's make a big comeback together.
Hey, I'm back with Gina Littleton. We're having a very good conversation about helping the community. That's kind of what United Way is, almost like a help broker. You know, you connect,
I love that.
You connect people to help people, and probably a pretty wide variety of charitable organizations and all. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We that is really our main job and focus, is that collaboration. So whether that is through the 49 partner agencies that we have, and we obviously raise funding, and so there's funding involved with that. We provide grant dollars to our partner organizations to support the programs that the community is desperate for, that they're providing. But we also collaborate in other ways. We worked recently with the Lead Coalition, Rebuild Bay, the City of Panama City, and a few other spots to try and get a $20 million grant in. It was a federal grant to help the neighborhood of Glenwood. So it would have put new pipes in the ground, help created some green space. We didn't get it, but that is in action what it looks like when you can bring a big group of people together in order to try and solve an issue. We've partnered with some other organizations, Arc of the Bay, Boys and Girls Club, Anchorage Children's Home, to try and bring a grant in to do environmental education with students. We don't know if we've gotten that one yet. It's still out. But my point is, when you can show a funder that you are collaborating, that you've got buy-in from all these organizations, your municipalities, your county governments, and say, hey, we're coming together to try and solve this thing that you've asked us to try and solve, you're so much more appealing to funders, because it's not just you. You're saying, look, my community believes in us. We've all said, I'll take this piece, I'll take this piece. So even beyond that aspect of funding from us, we are also working collaboratively to try and bring dollars from other areas to solve our issues.
That is beautiful.
It's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, like, when we talk about housing, is Habitat Humanity one of those?
They are here and in Chipola, which is in Jackson County.
Are they the largest house helping organization there is?
I mean, from that perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about a path to home ownership, Habitat is absolutely, they're wonderful.
That's such a tough thing.
Oh, it's, And again, we talked about earlier, the ability to purchase a home today is really tough. If you're in that Alice population, you're not going to go to the Cove and get a house. You're just not. And so if Habitat can help you, because they're building really financially, fiscally responsibly, I should say, and they've got a lot of volunteers so they can remove costs that way. So it makes a house that's affordable for a family that wouldn't otherwise be able to.
I would say that may be the number one issue, affordable housing.
Everything springs from it.
You know, and it all connects, you know, childcare, groceries. I know, like, we used to spend $800 a week buying groceries for our school. Now it's $2,700 a week. I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, and if you would have told me 5 years ago, this is where your numbers are going to be in 5 years.
Yeah, you better triple this budget.
I would have said, no way, it can't go up that much in that short a time. It absolutely can.
God.
And it absolutely has. And it's affected a lot of families. And I don't, you know, it is so complex that there's not one solution. It's multiple solutions of several things have got to happen to make it all, to make it all right. And I know that, you know, even with the child care issue, I don't think it's as simple as, well, just give everybody some money.
No.
That's not how that works.
No, it's not.
You know, it's a matter of these corporations have got to be involved, government's got to be involved, families have got to be connected to helping one another and trying to help with that. What do you think about, like, when you talk about one of my favorite quotes, and I've shared this a lot, so people have heard it, is to don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid to succeed at things that don't matter.
Yep.
And what I attribute that to is me trying to stay focused on the important things and not get sidetracked with all the stuff that comes up through the day.
Yeah.
Give me an inspirational quote that you think of, or do you have one?
I do, and not to go back to my parents, but my mom always used to tell us, remember who you are and whom you represent.
Yeah.
So as a child, that meant if you're going to go out with your friends tonight, don't act like an idiot. Like, please make sure you're
That's
making
right.
smart decisions.
Smart
Because I
decisions.
don't want to get a call that says, Mrs. Littleton, Gina is out here raising Cain.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I've really internalized that quote in a broader way. Remember who you are and whom you represent. Because I represent, and not just as United Way, but as a member of Bay County, as a person who lives in Northwest Florida, I represent our area. And all the things I do, I need to remember that. So in the decisions I make for the organization, the decisions I make as a mom, the decisions I make as a community member, I want that to reflect positively on our
Yes.
area. I want to know that when I'm doing something, I'm not just thinking about Gina, I'm not just thinking about the one. I'm thinking about how that's going to affect my kids, my husband, my community, my organization. And that's been really helpful as I've gotten older.
Absolutely.
It was, I saw on Facebook some friends of my sister's that graduated high school with my sister. He posted a photo and used that quote because my mom used to tell it to everybody. I mean, you could not
Yes.
leave the Littleton house without hearing, remember who you are and whom you represent.
That's beautiful.
So it's really shaped a lot of us, I think, into that bigger picture. It's not just about someone calling my parents when I was 16. It's about making sure that in everything I'm doing, I'm thinking about how does this best serve the people around me.
I had dinner with some friends last night, and they had brought up the incident at the school board.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I had said, well, that's probably been 10 years ago, whatever. But I think they looked it up. It's 15 years ago.
Yeah, 2014.
So how did that affect your family that day? Where were you?
I can tell you exactly where I was. I was at the Florida Center for Reading Research, not physically, but that's where I was working at the time. And I had just been to a school. So I was in my car and I got a text message from a friend and she said, oh my gosh, how's your mom? And I was like, when you haven't heard anything else, you don't want that text message cold. Cause I was immediately like, what does that mean? Like, what's going on? So I didn't even respond to her. I just called my dad and I said, hey, I just got this weird text message. What's going on? And he didn't tell me a lot. He just said, something happened at the school board today. They're still trying to figure out what's going on, but your mom's okay. Which you would think would make me feel better, but it only scared me more because I still hadn't gotten the details of what was going on. I just knew all these people were saying, oh, don't worry, your mom's fine. I'm like, what does that mean?
So our viewers know what we're talking about. 15 years ago,
Yep.
they had a shooter at the person that fired shots in a school board meeting,
Yep.
and the person was killed in
Yep.
the incident, and everyone's life was in danger at that moment. I remember thinking to myself, just what I thought about their families. I did.
Of
I thought about
course.
what would you feel if that was one of your loved ones in there. That was a scary time.
It was terrifying. Well, and then to see the video later and realize that she had actually been sent away. He didn't want women or children in there. He just wanted the men. And then if you let her tell the story today, that when she left, all she could think was that her friends were
Yes.
sitting ducks. And she'll say that sentence a lot. I just was standing there like, my friends out there, these people that I work with, my colleagues, they are sitting ducks and there's a guy with a gun. So I can't just stand here. Like, that is not something I'm
She had
capable
the
of doing.
opportunity to leave, but wouldn't leave them.
Wouldn't leave, right.
Yeah.
And so he came around the side of the dais, and she took her purse and came and tried to smack the
Tried to
gun out
whack
of his
him with
hand.
the purse. Yeah.
It did not work. And I do tell people when
But
I
what
get asked
courage.
this question,
What courage that your mother
I know.
has.
That it's really by the grace of God goes she, because he just didn't want to hurt women.
Yeah,
And so he had every opportunity to hurt her at that point, and he didn't, and he sent her away, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, when I say that my parents are my biggest inspirations, I think you can probably see why.
Absolutely.
Because she and my dad as well are the type of people, my sisters call it interveners. We're interveners. It's
Not gonna leave you.
not going to leave you.
Not gonna leave
If
you.
you're in a dangerous situation, if you need help, if there is anything on this green earth that I can do to assist, I'm going to do it. And I think, that's no better evidence than that day.
Life has a way of testing our words.
Yep.
And when someone does something like that, they can leave, but they're not leaving because there's other people in there that need them.
Yeah.
That says a whole lot.
Yeah, it does.
I think I could probably talk to you all day. But we're
This
about
has
out of
been
time.
amazing.
We're about out of time, but I think I'm gonna have you on again because there's a bunch more I want to ask
Yeah.
you that I've run out of time for. But let me tell you, you're very inspirational,
Thank you.
and I appreciate what you and United Way is doing to help our community. And thank you for being a part of Bay County, and thank you for coming on My Big Comeback.
Well, I
Thank you.
appreciate your invite. I'm super grateful to be here. I always, again, joke that United Way is one of my favorite topics. So I love to talk about that, and I appreciate your reaching out. This has been great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.